Hey smokers, Druaga1 here, and today we're going to be, well, answering some of the Q&A questions. There's quite a few questions that came in. A lot of them were actually duplicates, so sorry for all of those who asked a question. You're still going to get your answer. Probably if you don't show up on screen, it's going to be asked by just someone else. So let's go ahead and get started. Hannes Welt at Hanover. Favorite game of yours? That would probably have to still. It's a little bit hard. I haven't played it in a while, but it would probably have to still land to the original Deus Ex. It's probably my favorite game of all time. I think still I need to give it another playthrough just to see how it still holds up. Pretty much never disappoints. Wyatt190. Will you play Dungeon Siege with me? Don't really know what that is, and probably not, because if it's kind of a fantasy kind of game, I don't really like those. So, yeah, probably not. Sorry. What languages do you know? Maybe I'm 36. Tasso. English. And if you want to include programming languages, English. Tuna User asks, why do you love SSD that much? Most of your vids are about upgrading SSD. SSDs are the future. And they just make everything faster. Asterisk. No, I didn't. Asks, have you ever played the Tower of Druaga? No. But that is technically where my name came from. Otaku Plus asks, what is your favorite Star Trek series and film? What is your favorite class of starship? That would probably have to be... I probably want to say Voyager. My favorite film is probably going to have to go to Star Trek 4. And favorite class of starship would probably have to be the Constellation class. Wolfie asks, how many weeds do you smoke a day? 6. CBH OBC or Chibohuk asks, did you ever accidentally broke a product over $500 plus? I have. I don't break many things. I definitely would have remembered it if it was over $500. I've lost over $500, but I've never broken anything that was more than $500. Unless maybe it used to be worth $500 at one time, but now isn't anymore, and I broke it? Moving on. Shawjack34 asks, when is your Fire mixtape coming out? I'm assuming you're talking about Robots with Malware, my next album, and I have no idea because I haven't been working on it. Junkyard Dog asks, you seem to like a lot of older computing technology. What do you like about legacy technology in comparison to modern technology? It's a question I can't really put words to right at the moment. Older technology, like for example in the case of like the original Macintosh, the Power Macintosh 7500 is another good example, where those old pieces of machinery, also stuff like the Atari 2600, which is a little bit of a miracle, which isn't really computing, but it's still video computer system. That it felt like they did so much more with the hardware. What they had, they did a lot more with what they had. Now it's just like we won't really work too hard on coding stuff anymore, but instead let's just throw more CPU power at a certain block of code to make it more efficient. There's a little less discipline and scrutiny, but really when you're getting down to that level, before you had clock cycles that you could sort of count on one hand. Oh, that's not really true. But you sort of get my idea, like with the Atari 2600. With the Atari 2600, they were using like every... They were counted out down to the frame to make the games more efficient. And stuff on the Mac, the 128K Mac, they just had to pull off some miracles to get certain things done. And when they actually got them to work, they actually did it flawlessly, and how you should assume that a computer should do things. And then in the case of the Power Macintosh 7500, the way it was able to so smoothly reproduce composite video and with clarity, especially since I've used a couple other cards from, you know, the PC side of things around the same time period, and they didn't really stack up, and the computers couldn't really process that video stream very well. It's a complicated answer to that question. Modern technology is sort of just like, let's throw more power at it because there's too much code now. The processors are so fast. We just need to. There's not as much discipline when it comes to writing code. If any of that made any sense. Shy Guy asks, would you recommend buying a 2006 Mac Pro in 2015? Depends on a lot of factors, and it depends on how much it is. I still use my 2006 Mac Pro to, well, work on my music. So it's still, if you want to use, you know, like Snow Leopard, or if you're crazy, Lion, it's fine. You'd have to hack the firmware, or patch it, rather, to get your Mac Pro up to, like, El Capitan. It's possible, but I haven't tried to do it yet, because I don't really need to. But, yeah, it all depends on, what's in it as well. Is it coming with a lot of RAM? Because, you know, the RAM's kind of old now, so could be a little bit harder to come by. So you may end up putting more money into it later if you want some more RAM. So if you got a rig that had maybe the faster processors, comes with more RAM, then that might not be too bad. Maybe if it has a couple drives in it, that'd be pretty cool. But if you throw an SSD into one of those things, then it stacks up to more like modern machine territory. So it's not. It's still a good computer. I mean, God, it was expensive. Ben Gibbons asks, what is the oldest CPU that you own? And if you mean the CPU just on its own, like the actual chip itself, I probably have a couple in a baggie somewhere. But if you mean a CPU that's actually inside of a computer, or you're actually talking about a computer itself, the oldest computer I have is the Macintosh 512K. How many Apple computers do you have? I'm going to have to pause the recording and go count them. After coming back from a recount, I have 43 Apple computers. Not including iPods, iPod Touches, iPhones. If you want me to count those as well, it's a couple more. But I think you get the idea. Sonic 1934 apparently decided to take advantage of the fact that I didn't say that there was a limit to questions per person, but let's go ahead and answer them anyway. Number 1, where's my G4 Cube? I don't know, maybe we should go look for it. Will you ever try installing a beta version, say Chicago or Whistler, to an SSD? I don't know what those code names even are right off the top of my head, or what they're even for. And I just googled it, and it's Windows 95 and Windows XP respectively. Beta versions of Windows, I never even thought about that. I don't even know if I looked up the right thing, but that is an interesting idea, using a beta. I'd like to use a beta version of Windows Me and see what happens. That would be disastrous. Can I have your Kirby amiibo? Oh. Do you hate Linux? No. My only problem with Linux is that no, it's not actually a problem. It's a problem with me. I guess the it's I guess because I'm so used to things like the Mac and Windows having, you know, binaries you can just download and then they work. And of course, that's still the case on like Debian. You can get a Debian binary and it'll work. But in the past, I mean, I've been off and on experimenting with Linux since 2007, 2008. Copies of Ubuntu. I never got into it because anything outside of the Ubuntu Software Center that I tried to set up and get working, it just didn't. And then you pretty much have to dig into the terminal and then know how to use the terminal pretty well, which, you know, I can figure out, but it's like really, it takes, you know, some time, and I don't know, I never had the drive to want to learn how to more smoothly use the Linux operating system. I mean, sure, I can install it and say, oh yeah, it works on an SSD, blah blah blah, but I could never see myself using it as a daily driver, ever. Lucas Clones Customs asks, what inspires your sense of humor? That's an interesting question, because I actually have somewhat of a detailed answer for it. A good chunk of my humor comes from spending so much time with Akapakuku. If you've actually seen him on my channel, I've known him for the majority of my life, and a lot of mannerisms and stuff, let's just say, of his personality got somewhat integrated into mine, and a lot of his little tidbits that are just hilarious I've picked up on, and I sort of just use it, I guess you could say. That's a chunk. A lot of the other stuff, a lot of it comes from AVGN. Been watching a lot of him over the years. Tourette's guy, just saying fuck and stuff. So it's sort of an amalgamation of AVGN, Tourette's guy, and then sort of Akapuku's way of exploring life. I don't really know how else to describe it. And it all seems to blend together pretty well. It's not intentional. It just sort of happens. Beyond that, I don't really know. M. Colt, to have or to be, I'm assuming this is either... would I rather have things, or would I rather be okay with just being alive? I don't know if I want to think that deeply into it. Mega Bojan 1993 asks, I know I came rather late to the party, but I have a question for you. What does Druaga mean? I've always wondered. This does give me an opportunity to explain where my username came from. When I was playing Pole Position on the Namco Classics disc on the Sega Dreamcast, when you would start up Pole Position, and now this is what I believe is happening, is that it would load up all the billboard textures and stack them on top of each other in the first second or so of the game loading up. And so you'd see all the textures, or I can only presume, all stacked up, but the only one you could see is the Tower of Druaga. So when I would start up Pole Position, all I would see on the screen really big is this very cryptic and unexpected Druaga on the screen. And I was like, what is that? That's so strange. This has nothing to do with Pole Position. Right? And so it just and then I noticed later that, you know, oh, there's a Druaga billboard on the side of the road. And so I'm assuming that that was just one of the textures that was, you know, loading up or whatever. But it was so cryptic and weird, and it just said Druaga. And then it was like, okay, let's play Pole Position. It made no sense to me at the time. Of course, now I know that it is a Namco game. And I've never played it, but if you guys want, I might play it on the channel, if you want. Mr. Daxter Crane asks, what upcoming computers are you to review? I don't know if I really want to call them reviews exactly. Most of the time I'm just messing around. But that's a hard question to answer. Just because a lot of the times I have no idea what I'm going to do until I really sit down and start working on a video. I don't even know what computer or what thing I'm going to do. I got some basic ideas like, oh, I'm going to put an SSD into this computer, or I'm going to do this with that computer, and usually I try to shoot for it being somewhat unusual. But there's nothing actually planned now except for the G4 Cube video, which is infinitely delayed until I can get the proper power adapter for it, which is probably going to be no big deal if I decide to actually not be lazy and look for it. Zukos321 asks, what's your favorite retro PC / piece of hardware? I was quite fond of the Apple II GS, which I do not have. Back in 2007, 2008, for whatever reason, I had an emulator, and there's actually possibly still a video of me doing quote-unquote basic programming where I just manually copy someone else's code and make a sine wave. For whatever reason, and I was listening to over and over back in like 2007. I would listen to the FTA demo music, which was just killer. There's also I think I have some sort of music track, a cover thing I did of one of the songs from Module. So that I was sort of digging into the demo scene just a little bit. I think it was the early '90s demo scene. Just a little bit. I was really enjoying the music from it. So I really liked the Apple II GS. I wish I could get my hands on one. Before I got the Macintosh 512K, it was something along the lines of the original Macintosh. Piece of hardware in general, nothing specific. I was also very enamored with MIDI in general, older style MIDI, hardware controllers, stuff like that. Mainly keyboards. But then again, that was back before I knew too much about it and what it actually was. CJ, quote, CJ1234505, quote, Bartlett, why do you say "Hey smokers" at the beginning of your videos? And there have been, of course, a lot of weed-related questions, and it all goes back to 2009 high school inside jokes, where one of my friends said something just absolutely ridiculous and unbelievable, and another one of my friends was just like, wait, hold on for 1 second, and then he was pretending to hit a bong. And from that point forward, the weed jokes haven't really stopped, or at least for me. Skyber21, do you ever plan on providing download links to all of the MIDI files, MP3 module files that you've used in your videos, such as Ultimate DOS Machine, Redemption, SSD's Final Destination? It's something I can do, yeah. There's just a lot of MIDI files. A lot of them are actually from Pat Guy Astral Entertainment games, Pat Guy P Guy Astral Entertainment games that I took from them. Case in point, Metal Mosh was a pretty good one from Pat Guy Resurrection. And once I figured out how to extract the MIDI files from those games, it's pretty simple to just make a library. It's really just a matter of going into the temp folder when that MIDI file is playing. So if anybody actually does have a copy of any Astral Entertainment game, or any multimedia fusion game that's probably older, you can go into the temp directory and get some files that are currently in use. I don't know if that applies to newer games that are made with multimedia fusion. Like, I think Five Nights at Freddy's is made with multimedia fusion? Some sort of miracle. I don't know how he did it, but I think it is. Well, it's Click Team Fusion now, but yes, it is. Review Tech USA, who I'm not sure if it's actually the real Review Tech USA, but if it is, hello. What got you into Macs and iPhone or Android? What got me into Macs was probably using Macs when I was in 3rd grade, playing stuff like Number Munchers and Oregon Trail. And then a little bit later in summer school for, I think, after 3rd grade, there was some, beige. I'm very fond of the early 90s beige Macintosh computers. I played Blobo. That was a big one. I'm very, very fond of that game. Tried to get my hands on it for years, and when I finally got a Mac, I was able to play it, and it was just the best. But I still can't get past level 2, so it doesn't really matter. And then when I was at one of my old friend's house, in his sister's room was this Mac, which I guess was another, it was like a Macintosh SE, I think. And it had this really, really cool screensaver. And I don't know if I can ever find it, but it had this screensaver where you're it's like going down this square rainbow tunnel or something. It's just a bunch of squares that are moving closer to you to make it look like you're going through a tunnel, but it was so rad. And I never found it again. If you guys know anything about that damn Macintosh screensaver, oh my god, I want that so bad. Panda Pie asks, oh wait, I didn't finish the last one. And iPhone, as can be seen on a lot of my videos. Panda Pie asks, have you actually smoked weed? Considering you say, hey smokers. I have not smoked weed. Joe Jam Gaming asks, what is your highest spec PC for its era? E.g. a Windows XP top-of-the-line Pentium for its time. I don't think I have any computers like that. I guess maybe the Power Macintosh G3 blue and white comes close, because it was supposed to be that, ooh, let's play Quake 1 at 60 frames per second. Which is, it has like the default video card that comes with it. So I don't know if there was a up-configured model of that at the time. But that was, the ATI card that was competing with, I think it was the Voodoo? I don't think it was the Voodoo 2. But I think it was maybe the Voodoo 1, if I'm saying that correctly. Other than that, probably not. I mean, of course, we have we had the Windows 98 machine. It's now has a motherboard from a Windows XP machine. And of course, the Ultimate DOS machine is now a Pentium 3, so that doesn't really count either. So not really. I have sort of a hodgepodge of crap. I don't know. Are you a weed smoker? I'm just asking. Probably. Ryan the Canadian HD asks, what is your fucking obsession with solid state drives? They're pretty sexy. Descore asks, why did you change the motherboard of the Ultimate DOS machine? Isn't the Pentium 2 a little too fast for DOS gaming? It is absolutely too fast for DOS gaming, and there's no turbo. A lot of people who watched the original Ultimate DOS machine video made a ton of comments about the fact that there was a turbo button on the case. But I can't remember if I actually connected it to anything in there, but it didn't do anything. The main reason I switched off of the motherboard for the Ultimate DOS machine is because the original motherboard was designed specifically for a desktop style case, meaning it was meant to lie flat, parallel with your desk. And that meant that the actual ISA and PCI cards were on a riser card. So if you turn the whole computer into a desktop, into a tower orientation, then the PCI cards are pointing straight down. And the cards actually were falling out. And there weren't enough PCI and ISA slots on that riser card to fit all the cards I wanted to in it. So the only motherboard I had which had enough ports was that Pentium 3 board. So unless I can, the only other board I have would be a 8088 board that I have that only accepts 8-bit ISA. So not a lot really to do there. So anyway, that's sort of the explanation behind that. Ricardo Martinez asks, will you get an iMac G3? I've actually had an iMac G3 for a lot of years now. I've shown it, it's been seen in several videos. I think there's a couple more questions about this. So I already have one. not too excited about doing videos for it because to record it, I would have to either have some sort of way to have video out on it, which I don't think you can do, and therefore I'd have to record the screen, which has turned out pretty terribly in every video I've recorded where I've recorded the screen, except for the Macintosh 512K, which is amazing and is totally compatible with my camera for some odd reason. I have no idea. It has no flicker whatsoever. It's great. More to the point, if I can get a working refresh rate that looks good with the camera, I might do something I'm actually related. Galactor Gaming asks, question, do you have a PowerBook G4 and can you do a video on it? I was going to answer no to this question, but while I was counting my Apple computers a couple minutes ago for a couple questions ago, I actually found out that I do have a PowerBook G4. And I guess I can. DragonSlayer182 asks, I have two. Favorite computer, and do you still play Blockland? Favorite computer, meaning favorite computer that I have, or just favorite computer anywhere? My favorite computer is probably my main computer, just because I use it so much. I really love my my 2013 13-inch Retina. It's really nice when I use it, but I don't really use it that much because I'm not really a mobile kind of person. I just use desktops for the most part. So it's probably my main rig that I built. And no, I haven't played Blockland in probably last played January 13th, 2015. So no. LBB0 asks, are you married and will you ever do more modern PC vids? I really love the old computers, but it would be cool to see some more modern hardware now and then. Modern hardware, trying to keep up with modern hardware and do videos on it is a little bit harder, just because the most modern thing I have would probably be that 2013 Retina I just spoke about. There's not really much to see. I guess I could do a video about that. I'd be like, oh, let's install SSD in it. Oh, wait. The older stuff is easier to acquire and is usually less expensive, but it all depends. Lawrence Gibson asks, do you ever do programming? I used to back in like 2003. That's when, 2003, 2004, I was big into Dark Basic when I was like 12, 13? Not really anymore. Windows OS asks, do you like mechanical keyboards? What type? Absolutely, I really do like mechanical keyboards, but I like ones that work. I'm actually on my third mechanical keyboard now. They've all had weird problems. I suppose that's due to their nature of being mechanical and not just, you know, rubber bubbles. Yeah, I got a Model M repro from Unicomp. Was it Unicomp? I don't know. And the spacebar on that was doing some weird stuff. I switched over to, I don't even know what it was called. It was some sort of Mac mechanical keyboard, and then I think that had problems with spacebar as well. I can't think of it. And now I'm using another Mac mechanical keyboard, which seems to be working for the time being. It has this weird thing where you hold down Shift and you start typing, it makes like a bullet point before the sentence. And I don't really know how that works. I mean, it's kind of cool if you want to do bullet points, but I just want to type. So what type? My Akapakuku actually says he's made me a Bluetooth. I believe it was Bluetooth. Maybe it's wired. Yeah, I think he made me the wired ones. I don't like wireless keyboards or mice. He's actually made he either specially made one or he cleaned one up. He cleaned an actual Model M up for me. It's only a matter of when I'm going to get it, when I see him next. Because we don't live in the same town or anything, so someday I'll probably switch over to that. So I would like to move to a Model M again, and hopefully this one won't break. And no, I do not smash my keyboards. I paid a lot of money for that Model M. Haru JX Sikara asks, can you please do a Windows Neptune video? Yeah, sure. At some point. It's gonna have to go in the queue, I guess. At first I didn't want to do videos like that because I figured that a lot of people had already done them. But I mean, Windows Neptune is, you know, kind of obscure. Not everybody knows immediately about it, but yeah, I guess at some point. Can you do a video about deleting System32? I believe I already have. Well, I made a video about deleting a lot of stuff. It was called How to Mess Up Windows ME. I deleted a lot of stuff in just the Windows folder. I don't know if I deleted System32, so I may have to make a follow-up to that video about actually deleting System32. YOLO Gamer YT, which I assume stands for YouTube. Do you 420 blaze it up? Yes. No. Simon11 asks, what is the oldest computer that you own? That would be the Macintosh 512K. Real Nanners asks, can you do some more old Mac videos? I think I've only been doing old Mac videos for like the past 5 videos, so I guess I'm sure. I got a lot of them. Unless you mean like really old, like still got a couple that are pretty old, but I only got like 2 from the 80s, and I think I've already done videos on it. Gary Cohen, could you make some experiments with new graphics cards in old computers just like Greenham Gaming? I've heard a lot of talk about Greenham Gaming on my channel, a lot of people talking about him, and apparently he was here talking. I don't know. Maybe. It's kind of hard because you can only go so far back, because then PCI Express doesn't exist anymore, and then you can't really do new graphics cards in them. Unless you have some sort of weird adapter set up, which I have no idea how that would work. And then, of course, you could theoretically install a modern version of Windows on that older motherboard, which could actually get pretty interesting. And then you could actually see if you could play a demanding-ish game. It's a pretty good idea. Because I know that like a game like Battlefield is like uses mostly the video card, and people are playing that game on like Core 2 Duos, and it's running okay apparently. So if it's doing all the heavy lifting, you could probably make some magic happen. Descent guy 195. Have you ever played Descent? Well, big surprise there. From the looks of the font on some videos, I think you have. Actually, a lot of the fonts I just downloaded en masse from like a free fonts website. So I have played a demo of Descent 2 for Mac. Back when my only source for games on Mac in 2005 was the Apple software download site that is now, I guess, the App Store. That's where you could download free stuff from Apple's website or shareware stuff. Descent was on there somewhere, along with Tremulous and Sauerbraten, which were big parts of my life for a while. Not Applicable asks, have you tried NovaBench? It's an awesome free benchmark program for Windows XP and Up and macOS. I don't know what. Benchmarking software I need to get a little bit more educated on, because if I'm going to do all these videos with SSDs, I need to sort of more show how the performance compares in some way or another. Of course, NovaBench, I assume, is for like a full system comparison for like overall performance. So my Crystal Disk Mark is probably going to work for now, but no, I've never tried it. Jandro MN asks, don't know if you did it already, but what about the idea of installing a desktop computer OS on a console? I don't have any consoles that would be able to do something like that. I pretty much gave all of my consoles away to Estrayk, so the only consoles I have left, I believe, it's a Sega Genesis, an N64, and like a Game Boy Color. That's it. I think that's all I have. I might not even have the Sega Genesis. Yeah, I don't have a Sega Genesis anymore, but I have a PSP. Favorite computer? I believe this was already asked, but let's just assume this is now about favorite computer ever. That's hard. I've been very curious about the Commodore 64 since I don't have one. Would it be my favorite? Possibly. Maybe I could fall in love with it. But currently, I never gave it a lot of thought. Favorite one of my, let's say, Macs? So hard. I guess I don't really have one. Brent the Rogue asks, do you like pie or cookies or anything generally horrible for human consumption that is so tasty? All of the above. Old Apple Jailbreaker asks, how old are you? I just turned 24. Swarfiga, or Swarfega, when did you get your first PC? Now this is a very distinct question from what was the first PC you used, which I think is another question somewhere in here. 2003 is my first actual PC that I owned. My mom got for me when I was like 12. It was an HP something or other that had a Celeron processor. That's one of those really junky consumer PCs, but I got a lot of fun use out of it. Did a lot of, interestingly enough, video editing on it. I guess that's why I'm doing what I do today. Spider Jockey Brigade asks, do you know DanoOct1 or RogueAmp? I'm very familiar with both of their work. I love their channels a lot. Haven't seen a lot of it recently. I don't personally know them, no. I did send DanoOct1 a message once that said that, I don't remember exactly what it said, but it said something to the, something like, hey, both of our names start and end with a D and a 1. Hello? Something special going on here. As for RogueAmp, I don't know him. But they seem like really cool, real chill people. I think they know a lot more about computers than I do. Anime Gaming Dude asks, you play bass? I remember seeing a bass guitar sitting next to an amp in an earlier video of yours. Currently, no. I used to for a lot of years. And recently I haven't. When I do music stuff, it's mostly MIDI sequencing in Logic Express, and I really get grooving with that sort of stuff. I think I need to get another bass, because this one just doesn't, I'm not feeling it when I'm playing it, and for whatever reason it just doesn't, I'm not feeling the volume, and we're not clicking very well. I think it has something to do with it being one of those active pickups, of having active pickups. It has like a 9-volt battery in there, which makes it sound good, but it really doesn't, because I'm not feeling it. I don't know what it is. So I might pick it up again. Probably the last song that I learned was E1M9, which was really fun. Linux971 asks, do you try make a Hackintosh? Install OS 10 on normal PC, not Apple. I've done a Snow Leopard Hackintosh installation using IATK OS, I believe it is. So pretty much the prepackaged premium, I guess, version of Hackintosh onto a 2008 Gateway FX gaming laptop. And I didn't really do that much with it because I didn't really trust it. I wanted to be able to edit, I wanted to be able to work on music on the road. Not that I went on the road, but when I was out of town, I wanted to be able to work on music, but I didn't really trust the installation to not fall apart on me. So I never really got a chance to use it. It worked. I got Logic Express on it, and it actually worked, but I was sort of like, this is going to fall apart in like 2 seconds. Especially since I was installing it onto a failed hard drive. Little YouTuber hyphen YouTuber, please may you install Windows 10 on a SSD. Technically I already have, but you didn't see it. There is a little bit of... some people don't like Windows 10. I didn't really want to talk about this, but I did install Windows 10 on my main PC. So, that's sort of that. I know there's all these privacy policy concerns and how it sucks, and I did have to uninstall my backup software, and now I have to find an alternative. It's really not related to the question at all, but Windows 10 technically was installed on an SSD, my main SSD on my main computer. You didn't see it. Will you see a video of me doing it? Sure. I'm sure a lot of other videos have done it, because Windows 10 is, like the new hotshot thing. So, I guess at some point. Joe Farnell asks, where did you get your love of computers from? You'd have to go really way back. That's a really hard question for me to answer, because I'd have to go back really far. Probably since I started using, well, what was the Ultimate DOS machine, which was the first computer I really got to using. It ran Windows 3.1. It was a Packard Bell, so it had Navigator. I spent a lot of time with that computer, and just a lot of time on computers in general. Introversion? Mr. McGuire asks, greetings from a new subscriber. Thanks for subscribing. What is your opinion of onions? Onions, actually, I have just recently grown to liking. Very recently. I do love them. I like them, especially on sandwiches. Alternative question, what do you think of Linux? I think I already was talking about this, but it's fine. Linux, the theory behind Linux, or at least the philosophy behind Linux, is I like a lot. I like the idea of having a free, open operating system that's not, held back or oddly controlled by some sort of company. Not that I really care that much. It's not like I think that, oh, they're taking over and we need Linux to free us. When Linux gets to the level of functionality that Windows or Macintosh is, for some people it already does, but not for me anyway. Maybe I'll try it again. Then I will definitely start taking it more seriously. But until then, it's just going to be kind of a beta test. It's going to feel sort of like ReactOS in my mind. It's just sort of like, oh yeah, it's there and I can install it, but I'm not really going to use it. And then in the case of ReactOS, I can't use it because it doesn't work. Casualty Gamers asks, what do you think of our economy? Now, I'm not quite sure which economy you're talking about, but if you're talking about the US economy, which I assume you are, I don't really have much of a comment. I seem to be doing alright. I think gas prices went down. I don't fill my gas tank up that much, but when I do, I don't end up spending that much, so I guess it's okay. Ixin the Vatican Gamer asks, what is your favorite video you made? There's a lot of videos, but out of all the videos, I've had ones that I've spent a lot of time on. One of them was like the Wingnuts review. I do like that one a lot. And that's assuming you're just talking about my YouTube videos. I've made videos before before I went on YouTube. But if you're just talking about the YouTube videos, the Wingnuts video I like a lot. The Ultimate DOS Machine, the new Ultimate DOS Machine stuff, I liked how they turned out. Of course, we have the whole Windows 98 LAN party, which took forever to put together because there was so many different streams of footage. And editing it was a little bit of a nightmare and took a long time. So that it's sort of the biggest video project I've ever done. And I guess it's one of my favorites as a result, but I don't really know. Daniel Pinkham asks, do you play on console or just game on PC? Since I got rid of all my consoles, as I said just a couple questions ago, it is pretty much all PC. That's why I got the new graphics card, because I'm just going PC. Rebral Hunter, are you allergic to pussy? I don't have any allergies to cats or humans. Andrew McGonigal asks, what is your favorite Little Debbie snack? I'm more of a Hostess kind of guy. I sort of cut back a little bit on the Hostess. I used to have ding dongs a lot. There was a lot of cupcakes. I used to call them cream-filled cakes after, I started playing BioShock when it came out. I had a lot of knockoff brand cupcakes that looked like Hostess cupcakes, but they weren't. They were like Walgreens brand or something. Yeah, not really. Not a lot. Maybe I did. I don't know. Maybe. Little Debbie's not a brand. Did Hero the Elf asks, what was it that got you into the things you do on YouTube? Now, the style and content of my videos has shifted since my channel's original incarnation. And at that point in time, it was sort of a combination of the video games I had access to at the time and computer stuff. But the computer stuff was kind of limited, and a lot of it I had recorded, but I never uploaded it, so there's a lot of footage, but it never actually got put together. So it was mainly gaming. There wasn't that much to upload. I was very light on the uploads. I think it all started with the new Ultimate DOS Machine video that I made as a follow-up to the original because of its level of success that it had, I guess. I really wish I had put a different song on that thing. That's when I was a freshman in high school, so I mean, you can blame that on that. John Sand asks, who made your YouTube banner? Someone who wants a shout-out. Wadman asks, what do you think about Windows Vista? Of course, I subscribe to the same belief system as everyone else. That is, basically, Windows Vista is a pile of crap. It treated me pretty well, though. When I got my Gateway FX in 2008, it came with Windows Vista, and I used it for a while until, for some reason, it started getting a blue screen. And so I was like, well, I could try to figure out why it's getting a blue screen, but I could just upgrade to Windows 7, and then it just went away. For good. So, it was pretty good for a lot of years. Well, not a lot of years, a couple years. And I didn't have any problems with it. Probably had some problems with it, but it wasn't too big. Nothing I remember. Rinse... Jigstra? How old were you when you built your first PC? That's a tough one because I started actually taking computers apart, putting them back together in sort of the 2006-2007 era, where I really started digging into it. So I built functional computers out of spare parts. So I was probably 15 at the time. But I actually built a computer from parts that I bought to actually be a computer. That wasn't until a bit later. The last time I built a computer that was still put together already was from like PC Parts Ohio, which I really don't like anymore. And then long story short, 20, I think. It's kind of late, but it's the same computer I'm using right now, my main. Dope Games for Life asks, why are you so awesome? Mac equals weed. I think you already have your equation right there. Yep, that's why. Mac equals weed. That's what makes sense. Florian.
Thanks, by the way.
Florian Meerkat asks, have you owned one of the older style MacBook Pro / MacBook Black or white plastic models? If you're talking about the pre-unibody, like 2006, 2007 MacBooks, yes. I had a 2007 white MacBook. I traded it for a Intel iMac of the same era. And it managed to actually get the palm rest stains that were a problem with those models. So that was kind of annoying, but I traded it, and I still have that computer, and it still works, so it's kind of cool. The iMac, that is. Kyle Vulkek. I'm sorry. What is your inspiration? That's a good question. I just point the camera at computers and I talk about them. I don't really have a. I mean, I guess it's just there. I don't know. I like Druaga1 asks, one very important question. Can you please do an in-depth video documenting your mustache? I love it and must see more. I'll try to work it into some sort of SSD shenanigans. I guess. Iptun, how to make videos funny. Put jokes in them? The MC1X asks, which was the first custom PC you have built? You remember the specs. It's actually the same one I'm using right now. I didn't really start buying individual components to put them together until, like, well, 2012. And it's, i7 2600K, 3.4 gigahertz, 16 gigs of RAM, 1600 megahertz. At the time, it didn't have an SSD, and I was using like a Western Digital Green drive or something like that. And then at the time, I had a GTX 560. It was like a 700 watt power supply from OCZ. Yeah, it was an EVGA 560, by the way. So it was supposed to be the video card for Duke Nukem Forever, but I didn't have the Duke Nukem Forever version, which I wish I had. Is this a question? Yes. Zan1242. Will you ever put an SSD in a toaster? Now I'm getting a bunch of ideas now. Noid EAC. Noidak. Diak? No. Have you ever tried installing Windows 98 onto an original Xbox? I had an original Xbox, and I actually installed a custom something or other on it. I don't have it anymore because I gave it to Akabakuku, but I guess it's not impossible because since the Xbox pretty much runs like a modded version of like Windows 2000 or something, it's not too much to ask. It's like has a Pentium 3 in there or something, so it could happen. Why don't you, Max O'Neill asks, why don't you get faster internet? I could, but the only other option in my area is Comcast, and I don't know if I want to actually sign that deal with the devil. Kitty B asks, okay, you're my last hope. Elephants or gorillas? Knee-jerk reaction is elephants. Gorillas, they don't like me. Superscript H4S, we pipe L. I'm sub from Slovakia. Hello, how old are you? I'm 24. Deus Pain. Are you a fan of Mystery Science Theater 3000? No. I haven't actually seen it. The only thing I know about Mystery Science Theater is I think they mentioned it in Back to the Future. And that's the only way I knew it existed. Brave Air H asks, what is your favorite game of all time? I believe I said it was Deus Ex, but I think it's changing, because, you know, I am playing Fallout 4 right now, and I might actually have some of the footage of it in the background, but I don't think Fallout 4 is going to be Deus Ex. It's sort of the same kind of game, so it's definitely a contender, Fallout 4, but it's probably I'm going to have to stick with Deus Ex and then Deus Ex Human Revolution. You guys have like the names that are like so hard to pronounce, like I'm sorry. Vic Desfi. Which was the first computer you had? That would probably be the Ultimate DOS machine, or what used to be back when it was on the older motherboard. I have some pictures of it somewhere. Ramses Deviust. What OS would you recommend for a 1 GHz Celeron? Windows 98 SE or XP? Ooh. Socket 370? I don't even know what that would be. I don't know everything. But, Windows 98 SE if you can get the drivers for the motherboard. Absolutely. If you can get the drivers for everything you want to use, go 98. And just have it be a 98 machine. Otherwise, if you want to have a boring XP machine, which, you know, then it's just gonna work. Go XP. Eric Proa. What strain do you do? I personally prefer AK-47 and Cat Piss. Hound Doom of Doom asks, how many times do you have to convert AVI files to other AVI files just so they can work? Back when I tried to use Adobe Premiere CS2 when it became free on Windows 7, it didn't really like MP4s very much, so I think I maxed out at about 4 transcodes. So it wasn't very fun. XX_NGE Dome _XX. Are you from Sweden? No. Cole Rolling asks, which AoE game do you like the most? That would probably be the Rise of Rome expansion 2, Age of Empires 1. Of course, Age of Empires 2 is the heavy contender there. AoE 3 sort of misses the mark just because, I mean, it's a good game that stands on its own, but it sort of misses the mark because it doesn't have that feel. I like the ability to, like, mow people down with, like, a line of musket fire. That's really cool. But something about the first one I just have more of a childhood attachment to or something. Just, it's so much more basic. It feels more like a video game. I feel like I can feel the game and the things that are happening. It has more... It's not as sort of... It's like when the axeman, like, hits something, it looks like he's fucking hitting something. But in Age of Empires 2, it just seems like they're this little sissy girl that just, like, swinging their sword going... like they're giving a half-ass effort or something. I don't know. And then the sound effects are, of course, much more heavy-hitting and basic and sort of cheesier and cheaper sounding in the first one. But it's just like, you want a sound effect? Here's your sound effect. Here you go. Age of Empires, it's like, here's this... Age of Empires 2, it's like, here's this beautiful soundscape and whatever. Still probably the first one. Not the first one without the expansion because you can't queue units, which makes macro a bitch. But yeah, that was annoying. I spam that button. Hey, Rise of Rome all day. Michael Zeno asks, will you ever put an SSD in a G4 cube? Yes, that's the next video I want to make. Shut up! Well, it's not going to be the next one, but, you know. SSD in the Power Mac 6500 or exploring MIDI sequencing audio recording with it just as a challenge. I understand the software might be hard to find, though. I have a game port to MIDI cable, but I never got it working. So if there is a game port where I can get a game port sound card in the back of the 6500 or the 7500, sure. SSD, I'd have to get a SCSI SSD. Apparently there are some companies that custom make them, but you have to like call them because the prices aren't actually on their website. It's weird. Vencor asks, have you ever tried building a computer with 2 processors? I have not. The only computer I have that has 2 processors is the 2006 Mac Pro. Victor Figueroa, did your computer catch fire? Did your computer catch on fire before? Thankfully not. I've had a couple unexpected thermal shutdowns. Like I ran a Celeron without a heatsink a couple times in a row, and it like was able to boot Windows all the way, but then it shut off. It's probably as close as I got to anything like that. I had a Radeon card shut down on me, thermal shutdown, but I haven't had any fires. No fires. Aaron Choi asks, favorite OS? I like Windows 7 a lot. A lot. I'm just now breaking into Windows 10. Absolutely cannot say whether or not it's my favorite. 7 would probably be the old standby. But I think all-time favorite is probably going to go to Windows 2000. Rock solid, and I like that it's more to the point, sort of business-focused, kind of how they just kept the old styling of the windows and everything. They didn't add the plastic toys with Windows XP or this shiny gaudiness of Windows Vista. It was just like, it's business. But again, it looks exactly the same as Windows ME or Windows 98, basically. But it's that, but rock solid. When Evgenii Nikiforov asks, when G4 CUDE video? I guess cube. You can turn the D backwards. I still have to get that power supply. But soon. Maybe multiple. 2, when Linux on G5 video. Never thought about doing that. There are, of course, some Linux distributions that work on PowerPC. And I guess I could try them. It's not something I plan to do in the near future, but I'll keep it in mind. Bob Pony asks, can you do a room tour? Probably not, because it's kind of embarrassing. Because I have, like, way too many computers. Dry asks, what are the specs of your main PC? I think I already said that. Is there something I'm missing? There's also some capture cards in there. There's an AverMedia Game Capture HD. There's a Sabrent analog capture card that I used to record the video on, like, the Windows 98 machine videos. And then there might be something else in there. Well, right now there's SanDisk SSD. Western Digital 2TB that you saw me install on the PowerMac 7500 video. It's got a Western Digital green in there. That is my video drive, which I'm going to have to swap out at some point. Hopefully with an SSD. And then, of course, we have the 32GB one you saw me install on the SSD's Final Destination video. And I think that's everything that's in my computer. It's got 2 optical drives, 2 DVD writers on the front. Got USB 3 on the motherboard. That's about it. Luciano Di Nino, what is your real-life occupation? What made you want to make videos on YouTube? Do you plan on growing this channel, or is this just a hobby? Love your content. Keep doing what you're doing. I work, but not gonna say what I do at this point in time because reasons. What made me want to do videos on YouTube? I forgot a little bit. But basically what it was is when I started doing stuff starting with the Windows 2000 on SD card video, I just wanted to make videos that were sort of there to just to have a collection of videos on a YouTube channel. Sort of the same thing I did with my music a little bit, where you just sort of have them just on the internet and just like, oh hey, here's a video about this. If somebody asks about it or something, I don't really know. It's fun. It's really fun. I wish I had more articulated answers. But yeah, you can call it a hobby. Yeah. And thank you. Whether or not I plan on growing it would simply mean uploading more, I guess. Currently, I'm trying to keep it to 1 upload a week. If I do more than that, I'll get burned out on it, and then you'll go like 3 weeks without getting anything. So that wouldn't be very good. So I can't really do it anymore, and then I just don't have enough time. So it's going to grow as much as it grows, I guess. If you want to look at subscriber count, people will keep subscribing, I guess. But if you mean branching out into other areas like gaming or other things, probably not. I do a gaming video every once in a while, but you guys don't seem to like those as much. Alex John asks, how powerful is your mustache in Newton meters? If only I knew more about physics, I could better answer your question, but you feel free to use your imagination. Alex V182 asks, will you do more Windows 98 LAN party videos? I hope so. Those are really fun, but it just takes a long time to make. I don't know what we would play next. We had some more games that we could play, but we'll find something. And maybe we'll actually not be LAN party anymore. Maybe next we'll actually try to play stuff over the internet with the Windows 98 machines. That might be the next step. Your editing anti-radic asks, your editing PC is just my main PC. The one I've been talking about the specs for. Enzo Codini asks, what's the best computer you owned? Your favorite? Again, probably my main PC. Everything else is just several notches below it. The Jackie161, how come you have really slow internet speeds? Is your internet where you live expensive? It's not expensive, it's just that in the area of town I'm in, it's not... There's only 2 choices. CenturyLink or Comcast. And I could go Comcast, and that would solve that problem, but then you have the data limits and stuff, and then the fees for going over the data limits, so on and so forth. So it's either that or not. So I guess I'm gonna stick with CenturyLink for the time being, as crappy as it is in this area. Wait, and I think that it's funny that I believe Steam servers are actually using the CenturyLink ISP from, like, where are they? Washington? So I thought that was kind of funny. Did you go to college, and if so, what for? No, I did not. Are you Canadian? No, I am not. 3 Dowg Gaming. Hey, are you an AMD guy or an Intel guy, or are you a Mac fan? I am pretty strictly Intel. Never got into AMD processors. Pretty much always had Intel processors. Well, almost all the computers I've had, even the ones I've just sort of inherited from any random place, they pretty much always had Intel processors. Every once in a while there would be an AMD, but then I think the last one I gave it to somebody else. Macs are good. Macs have Intel processors, so other than that, the PowerPC and Motorola ones, I like those too. David Phantom asks, are Macs your favorite computer? What is the oldest computer you have? Why do you have a tower of Mac Minis? Do you have an Alienware computer? What is your main job? If you have one, what is the worst computer problem you've ever caused? When did you get into computers? What is your favorite OS? That's a lot of questions. Let's try and tackle them. Are Mac my favorite? Probably not. I think because of gaming and the fact that I'm so familiar with using it as my personal computer, then I have to stick with Windows on this one, but Macs are obviously a close second. Oldest computer, Mac 512K. Why do you have a tower of Mac Minis? Some questions don't require an answer, or have an answer. Do you have an Alienware computer? I don't think I ever have had anything like that in my life, ever. I always had a very negative view on them for some reason. Never really gave it much thought. Alienware computers are more like turnkey solutions for people who want to get into PC gaming without having to like build stuff. If they're like on a clock, like it's like pretty much Angry Joe's new setup video they did like a couple months ago, where he set up his Alienware computer, and it just like, because he needed a turnkey solution and it just worked for him. I totally agree with what he did. Again, not going to talk about the job. What is the worst computer problem you've ever caused? Worst one in terms of... Well, the only thing I can really remember is I really haven't caused many problems. It's more like I'm trying to fix stuff. But probably the worst problem I ever caused was when I got in trouble in 9th grade. When I changed the clock time on a computer, I changed the year to like 2056 or something, so that on Microsoft Word, it would autofill the date to say 2056 as the year, and I was like, ooh, it's cool, we're futuristic Word. And then I logged off of my account, and apparently, the next person who went to use that computer couldn't log in. And so I got called down to the office, and I was freaking out because I thought it was, oh god, they found out that I was able to get to command prompt. I'm fucked. And they brought me in and they said, well, you're here due to vandalism. And I'm like, oh my shit. and so I'm like, oh, okay. Okay. And like, it seems you changed the clock time on one of the computers. I was like, oh, thank God. So I was suspended for 4 or 5 days, and I had vandalism on my school record, which later was brought down to general misconduct. But when I went to my next school, I was on a 30-day probation, and the person who I ended up telling about at my new school thought it was hilarious, but they still had to put me on probation. So I guess that's the worst problem I've ever caused. I changed the clock time on a computer. When did you get into computers? 1997, 8, probably 1998. That's when it really got in, because 1997 I was just like this mindless child. What is your favorite OS? For Windows 2000. If you want to talk about Mac operating systems, I really like Mac OS 9. Chris for the win Hall. Do you really smoke? If so, roll one for me. I don't really smoke, but I will roll one for you. Ryan Bacon asks, do a Windows 3.1 or 95 PC, but run newer hardware. I could, but if I put those operating systems on new hardware, they will boot up in like 0.5 seconds, but they won't have any drivers for diddly squat. So they just sort of be there, and it's like, let's try and play a game, no. Let's try and listen, no. Let's open Explorer, okay, have fun. Or Program Manager. Let's go outside 640 by 4. No. It could happen, though. Jack Wilson asks, are you going to do a video on a Apple laptop anytime soon? I did the iBook video, but I didn't really go in depth. I planned this, and I wrote a script for it and everything, and recorded all sorts of footage for an iBook G3 video, but I never made it. And my style of video creation deviated into a direction away from being scripted and somewhere else. So I'll probably make more in iBook video, some description. Probably that PowerBook video though the guy was talking about. 8 gigabytes of RAM or 16, and i3 or i5 for Minecraft and basic computer needs. Lastly, should I upgrade to a GTX 950 or 970? Last I checked, this wasn't really about tech support-ish, but go 16 if you can, go i5 if you can. Going from 750 to 950, I don't know if you will see too much of an advantage. Going from 750 to 960, maybe a little bit more, or in my case 970 would be a little bit better, but you will see improvement, of course. Tendera asks, do you praise the almighty Bob Ross? Of course I do. Ray's Level Boss asks, can you try to run Windows 10 on a Windows 95 PC? I think this is one of the things you guys were talking about Greenham Gaming was doing, or something like that. Sort of like Windows 8 and Windows 7, you can sort of install those operating systems on some old-ass hardware. So I don't see why not. It'll run like crap. But it will have all the drivers for it. Do you have any brothers or sisters? Do you plan to do YouTube for a while? Thanks, I'm a big fan of your videos. I'll watch it for a while. Well, thank you. Only child. I plan on continuing to do YouTube. I don't plan on quitting at all. OLEDCRT asks, what kind of equipment do you use for your music production stuff? I have a MIDI Man Oxygen 8, aka the M Audio Oxygen 8, because MIDI Man got bought out by M Audio. But it's back when it was MIDI Man. That's really the only music production equipment. I have an MDR 7506. I have Sony MDR 7506s for doing the mixing and the monitoring and such for making the music. Are you ever going to start making videos with the video capture card again? I like the way those turned out. Probably not, because I have the AverMedia card now. I can do it digitally, or at least with higher quality, higher resolution. The Sabrent card I'm using is really, really terrible. So yeah, it's not really that good. So probably gonna go AverMedia if I can, unless I have some weird problem and have to use it. Colin G Tech asks, when are you going to do Solaris on an SSD? Not anytime soon, because I know like almost zip about Solaris. Sunburnt Rocket 89 asks, count how many SSDs you have, count them please. Shit. 2 in my main, 1 over there, so that's 3. 4 in the Windows 98 machine. 5 if you want to count that broken one over there. 6 if you want to count the one in the ThinkPad. 7 if you want to count the one in the MacBook Pro. 8 if you want to count the one in the Mac Pro. Forgot I did put one in that. If you want to count all the SD card videos, a couple more, but they're not really SSDs. I think that's it. I don't think I have any more. Broken one kind of sucks. Oh, wait. Another one. 9. I have a 9th one. And my video editing software crashed, so I'm gonna have to reopen it. So I was on. When John Smith asks, when does your mixtape drop? Not this year. Tuquin123, can you give us a brief history of your life and why you got into gaming and computer tech things? I sort of covered a little bit of that, but since I've just been using computers my whole life and whatnot, started out with Ultimate Dash Machine, went to my mom's 98 machine, got her to upgrade that with a 3D accelerator card, which was pretty cool. It was a Voodoo 2, but then I gave that to somebody else, and I really regret that. And then I got my own computer in 2003, and then in 2004 I got a Mac, and then 2006 I got a Mac Pro, and then 2008 I got a gaming laptop, and then I got me a Steam, and then 2012 I built my computer, and then here we are. So I guess that answers your question. Jackal J asks, you got any plans for a Windows 98 build with 3DFX Voodoo cards? If I had some 3DFX Voodoo cards, Akabakuku is the one who has the 3DFX cards, not the me. Troker Gaming 929 asks, can you do a gameplay of Minecraft? Here you go. Jellico49 asks, why do you trying to install OSs on SSDs? Because it's fun. Gray Cows asks, where do you get your older Windows copies and product keys? They came from different places. My copy of Windows 98 is just legitimate. I got from, it's like a copy that came with the computer, something like that, way back. I don't remember where it actually came from. I just sort of had it. Just the official Windows 98 disk, and as for the other stuff, you can probably guess where it came from, but now I'm pretty much getting everything from WinWorld PC. Not that I've downloaded much stuff from there, but it's a good site. AHD1, is your name Druaga? Nope. Awesome Dixie asks, will you do anything more with the iBook G3? Yes, considering I have multiple iBook G3s, so. Gamebia 1011 asks, Ian, how many musical instruments do you play, if any, and which ones? I don't really play bass so much anymore, but I guess you could say I can still play it. I do use my Oxygen 8 MIDI man to get MIDI data into my projects. I have to quantize the shit out of them manually to get them sounding how I want, but I do some soloing with it. It's kind of cool. Alpha Nerd asks, what is your favorite computer that you own, and what is that one computer you want but don't have? Since I've already answered the first one, the second one is odd, because I think it would just be a computer that has better specs than this. I would just build a better computer with a better processor. Probably 32 gigs of RAM. No specific computer I'd like to have, except for I kind of want a Macintosh SE and an Apple II GS and maybe one of the new cylinder Mac Pros, totally decked out, you know, like $12,000 level. But, you know, I wouldn't actually buy that. Mega Ringstar asks, Drug, are you a Mac fag? I guess. Don Woodworth asks, how do you convert songs to direct MIDI? You can, of course, use the websites, which can convert audio, MP3s, waves, to MIDI. Just upload it and download it. Sounds like utter crap. It's like a meme now, I think. It's been probably a meme for a while, people just making these terrible MIDIs. Interestingly, back in like 2003 or something, I tried to convert a wave file, multiple wave files, into MIDI, because I was like obsessed with MIDI and I didn't have any sequencing software to make it. I needed to find a way to make MIDIs. So I tried to use, like, and this was back when I was on Windows ME on dial-up, trying to find online some software that would do that, and it actually worked. It just sounded like crap, just as bad as it sounds today. I think it's a little bit better today. It got a little bit better at it, but it still sounded like crap. If you're talking about some of the stuff, some of the MIDI files, like on my channel, like Modulate, for example, it's kind of weird. Some guy commented on my video once a long time ago, and then he removed his comment after I answered when he was wondering how did I convert the old Apple Apple IIgs file from the modulate intro. How did I convert that to MIDI and then make it? And I was like, I didn't. I just manually transcribed it by ear. And then he removed his comment. So for me, if I want to convert a song into MIDI, I just transcribe it myself. It's a pain in the ass, but I do it. Ronnie Tycho 9518, what is your favorite PC game and what consoles do you have? I think I've answered both of these already. I only have a Nintendo 64, and my favorite PC game is probably gonna stay Deus Ex. DJ Charizard, when did you first find out you had a fetish for SSDs? Probably when I installed the first one. God. Jaguar Anon, is this the most pointless question you have been asked? I don't know, I think that other guy outdid you. Oz McCurley, why are you so awesome? I don't know, why are you? Tom is a beast, asks, do you have an iMac G3? If so, we'll try to install an SSD into it. I do, and I might. But it's kind of a bitch to open that thing up. I've done it before, and I somehow managed to put it back together without breaking it. Probably use the IDE SSD for that one. See how it will do. Probably would do better than this crap Windows 98 machine. What the hell is wrong with it? I don't even know. Ricardo Martinez, I believe he's already asked a question, but we'll go again. Will you get a MacBook Pro? I already have one. It's a 13-inch Retina. SpriteCloud asks, other than yourself, who are some of your favorite computer video makers on YouTube? To be honest, I don't watch any computer video makers aside from, say, LGR. The only guy who makes computer videos that I can think of. Of course, it's Daniel-Act1 and Rogan, but I really haven't been watching too much YouTube other than, like, I watch, like, the CU podcast. I watch Total Biscuit from time to time. Still watch whatever gets put up on Cinemassacre. So that's pretty much the extent of my watching on YouTube. It's not a main course of activity for me. Except for, you know, making the videos themselves. Joe Farnell, do you ever pirate software? Interesting question, because I have recently quit this within the past week. I used to, but I don't anymore. I'm trying to go all legit. And that includes everything. Music, games, software. I'm gonna go all legit, and it's done. Mass Silent Murderer. Why did you start making YouTube videos? I wonder what clicked in my brain, in my 14, 15-year-old brain, when I first uploaded that Sour Rotten video. I guess somebody said you gotta start making YouTube videos. I think it was my friend Scott, actually, who used to go by One Who Slays All on YouTube, but he's probably long since changed his name. He was making frag videos for Halo 2 on Windows Movie Maker on Windows XP in 2005. And he probably was like, dude, you gotta get on YouTube, yada yada yada. And that's probably why I made a YouTube account. Probably so I could get some gaming videos on there. And what do you know? I put a Sour Rotten video on there. So, you know, that might actually be it. I've been sort of thinking about that over the past couple of questions, and I think that might actually be what it is. Kenko Bloxen, who I assume found my channel through my Blockland video. Why did you start making videos about computers? First video game you ever played? Oldest computer you owned? First computer you ever used? Where did your name come from? Why am I asking too many questions? You tell me. Why did I start making videos about computers? I'm gonna have to go back and watch some videos. You'll end up seeing some of them. Really old footage that never made it to YouTube. But I would just had this excitement about the old computers, and I wanted to sort of document it. Since I already knew I had a YouTube account, I could, you know, document it to myself. This makes sort of almost a vlog format. sort of stuff, talking about computers, talking about Windows 98 and what I was doing with this Windows 98 machine and that Windows 98 machine and the Ultimate DOS machine when it was quote-unquote new. I guess I just wanted to share it in some way because it was getting above average levels of interesting. First video game you ever played, that's hard because I think it probably had to be one of the games. It might have been Ski Free, actually. It's probably one of the first. It was probably Ski Free on Windows 3.1 on that Ultimate DOS machine. The first one, not the Pentium 3 one. Or it was another one of those Microsoft Windows Entertainment Pack games, like some games that aren't really games, like Life Genesis, or games that are games, like Rodent's Revenge. Then, of course, there was the knowledge adventure games, which some of them were very memorable, yet boring, and other ones which were absolutely terrifying, like 3D Body Adventure. Space Adventure? That was a big one. I actually did a music remix for one of the songs from that. It's called Mimus. It's somewhere on my channel. I don't know, somewhere. Oldest computer you own, 512K. First computer you ever used, probably the Ultimate DOS machine, which is actually the Packard Bell LC100 or something like that. LD100? I have a picture of it somewhere. All the old case parts for done. Where'd you get your name from? I believe I explained that. I think we're done. I like Druaga1. Asks another question. Could you ever make a Power Mac 7500 SSD Adventures video? That would be fun. If I ever get my hands on a SCSI SSD, absolutely. Whatever happened to the Ultimate DOS machine? Is that still a thing? I still have the old motherboard for it. All the rest of the components... The only thing Ultimate DOS machine about the new Ultimate DOS machine is the fact that it has some files that were made on the old motherboard. Everything else is different. Except for maybe the video card. But, if you want to call it a video card. It's still there. It's in a box, right? It's actually in a box right there. With a bunch of other motherboards and stuff. So it's still there. The Pentium 1's still there. But yeah, that was a long time ago. And, seems like we have a lot in common. And thanks for watching. Mr. Quickness asks, how many kidneys do you have? What is your blood type so I can sell them on the black market? I'm not actually human, so I don't think that would really help you. Rob221 Pig, how many computers do you have and what is your favorite? Let me go take a recount. When I did a little bit of counting, I found out that I actually have something more along the lines of 45, 46 Macs, making a grand total of 58 altogether. So, yeah. I don't know what happened to all my PCs. I had like way more. If you want to count the motherboards, actually, hold on. I think I forgot a couple. Yeah, actually it's 47 Macs, and it's like 13 PCs. Not counting the... Oh, this is hard. Let's just round it off and say it's... Hold on. That comes to an even 60. Awesome. So let's just say it's 60. Yes, I had to get a calculator for that. Kyle's Tech Channel said, what got you into Macs? I'm glad you asked that question because... I might have already answered this, but a little bit, but basically, 3rd grade Macintosh LCs. It's the nostalgia for the beige Macs, essentially. And then, 2005 is when I got my first Mac, which is G4 Mac Mini. And it sort of just went from there. So, yeah. Are you high? Absolutely. What's the first SSD you used? That would be the SanDisk something or other. Oh, shit. Well, now I lost my SSD boxes. SanDisk Extreme 2, 128 gig. Probably be the first one, and it's the one I'm using right now to record this. Onto, I guess. Simon Gold, what is the first game you played? I think we already answered it. Did we already answer this? I think we did. Xavier's Z, what got you into collecting hardware? I think the YouTube videos had a lot to do with it, because I needed more stuff to make videos about, so that was part of it. But a lot of the, I like the computers, and I don't want to throw them away because I like them. Sniff 112, I mean 122. What machine haven't you put an SSD in? Well, since I only have about, what, 7 or 8 SSDs, and I put them in 1, 2, 3, so 57 computers I haven't put SSDs in. But then again, some of them already have SSDs, so it's sort of hard to count. How many times have you put an SSD in an old PC and installed an old OS on it? A couple times. Don't really know right off the top of my head. MLKZ says, when will you make a video about your own PC? I've sort of indirectly made some. But nothing like that went into the details of like how I use it and what I use it for. Probably not for a while. Molly 917. Which computer part turns you on the most? I mean, everybody's got their favorite. For me, it's big radiators. I think somebody else made a comment about SSDs and how I would probably pick SSDs. But have you noticed that I put a pretty big heatsink on my i7? Just saying. How many PCs max do you have? I already answered that. Old Apple jailbreaker comments again, I believe. How did you get your name and picture? I already explained the name, but as for the picture, my picture is a Gmod model of the Doom guy brandishing the USP match from Half-Life 2. I think I made that when I was going through a slight spurt of wanting to make Gmod videos, and that's when I made my Druaga1 Plays Quantum Rush. That guy you see in that video is sort of my, I don't know, avatar kind of guy. He always wears a pot on his head. I bet you can guess why. And that's why the Doom guy has the pot on his head. Furry Fan 2003 asks, what is the oldest PC you have, and do you like Ubuntu? I use it as a daily OS. More power to you on the daily OS thing. I could never do that. Macapacuckoo does that. I can't do that. Oldest PC, not Mac, not that. Oldest PC would probably, if you want to count just motherboards laying around, it would probably be that 1987 system, or like an 8088 or something. It's technically probably the oldest PC I have. If you want something that's actually assembled, it might be that Arkenstone Deck Talk thing. I think that was a 94. I don't go very far back. And then, of course, the Ultimate DOS Machine was probably a 92 or something like that. I don't know. Am I recording? Yes, I am. Jack does random. Were you actually stoned when you did the iMac G4 review? Would it make any difference either way? No. Lorcan O'Brien asks, have you ever thought of putting some weed between a CPU and heatsink so you can get more blaze as your CPU gets more stressed? And I legitimately want to do this. Callum Tapper asks, what is your favorite color? Navy. Can I have that bad hard drive from the Windows ME video? No. Star Trek 1997 asks, will you ever build a Hackintosh? Perhaps at some point, but man, it's kind of a bitch to set up. You gotta do all those kexts and stuff. That's gross. McLevin asks, why do you call people smokers? Because you are all my smokers. Jano Varga asks, what is your favorite RTS? That's a tough one to answer. I'm leaning towards StarCraft 2. It's a little bit too, I don't know if I want to say competitive, but requires too much mental acuity to actually be good at the game. Like, you need to be so precise and know everything that's going on to actually play it well, but it's such a solid and perfectly made game that I like so much. StarCraft 2. Command and Conquer Red Alert 3 is another one of those kind of games. I like it a lot. The hard counter system makes me want to cry, but the only reason that is because I kind of suck at the game compared to, you know, the pros. Command and Conquer 3, Kane's Wrath was a big LAN party favorite of mine. Played it a lot during high school. There's a big void in the current games industry. There's a lack of good RTS games. Grey Goo came out, and then people really didn't like that, but I thought it was okay. I just sucked at it. Liam McHenry, do you know OS First Timer? I have seen his videos in the side panel. I've seen them there, but I've never watched them. I don't know if he's a pretty cool guy. Maybe I will. I don't watch a lot of different YouTubers. I just sort of drift around. You know, it's very sporadic and random. Do you know... Can you sub to my channels? I'm sure somebody else will, now that they see them. Do you know the iBook guy / the 8-bit guy? I've heard people talk about the iBook guy, but not the 8-bit guy. The 8-bit guy sounds like a very general name that probably somebody's... Well, I don't know them personally, so if that was your question. Sniff122 asks again, will you give me a shout out and another? Why... how did you start YouTube? Never had the how question yet. I created an account and I made videos. That is how I started YouTube. But that's more of a sarcastic answer that I didn't really like giving, but sure. Mike Mac, when did your love of computers in Macintosh begin? I probably already... 2005. 2005. Max O'Neill, and this is our last question, asks, do you like putting SSDs in things? Yes. Alright, so that's all the questions. Obviously didn't answer all of them, but hopefully this is satisfactory to the question and answer video I decided to do. I wouldn't have done it if somebody didn't ask me to do it, which I agreed to because I thought, oh, that's going to be easy, and it's kind of taken a while. I don't know how long I've been recording, but this video may never get uploaded, so that's going to be fun. Alright, so hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you guys learned some things that are interesting. My voice is starting to go out from talking this much, so I guess I will talk to you guys. See you guys, whatever you guys, smoke you guys later. Have a good one.